This is Fearless Leadership with Brendan Keegan, a production of Forbes Books. Conversations with leaders who provide valuable, candid insights from their journeys and share their secrets to what made them successful and fearless.
This week's Fearless Leader is Jeanine Charlton, the Senior Vice President and Chief Technology and Digital Officer at Merchants Fleet. Jeanine has been recognized as one of the top 50 most powerful women in technology. Wow, Jeanine, that is pretty awesome. She has extensive leadership experience in the automotive, transportation, supply chain, and manufacturing industries. She provides strategic leadership to all of Merchants Fleet technology initiatives and is focused on positioning the company for technological advancement and continued growth. Jeanine, welcome to today's podcast.
Thanks, Brendan.
So, going back 4 years ago, you were actually on our board of directors, and you stepped off the board and right into the company. What attracted you to make that jump from the board to being an executive in the company?
Well, aside from you being a great CEO and being one of the primary reasons for me wanting to come to the company, for me, it was really about looking at Merchants and how ripe it was for transformation. And it was a great opportunity to partner with you on helping to enable the business transformation through the use of technology. Super exciting.
Great. So now we hear the term digital transformation. Can you just tell us, generally speaking, what does digital transformation mean?
Yeah, it's a really overly used buzzword, in my opinion. But simply put, I think it's the process of bringing change across the business through leveraging technology. It's really as simple as that. And it really impacts everything that we do, from whether we are putting a new product or service out to the market or really looking to help enable how we drive operational scale across the company.
Before we even get into Merchants, what digital transformations do you see just happening in the world? I know that today happens to be the 5th of the month, which means when I get home tonight, I'm going to have my monthly subscription to Amazon sitting outside. So that's kind of transformed how I kind of shop for big and bulky things. But can you give us some digital transformations that just all our listeners out there would understand?
Yeah, I think in today's day and age, particularly as a result of COVID, everybody's been impacted by digital transformation, right? We literally went from being able to go into a store to buy goods or services to having to do everything remotely from home and figuring out how, through the use of either your computer or your cell phone, how you were going to get basic things like food to your home.
Yeah. I'm thinking of my mother-in-law's 75th birthday event. We were supposed to have a big trip in Croatia. Well, the digital transformation for her birthday was a family Zoom. And I will tell you this, with a group of 75-year-old-ish people, it was quite the transformation and entertainment at the same time. But just that didn't exist 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we went through a similar experience even this past Christmas. I was to travel home to see my kids and, ended up getting COVID, and as a result had to do Christmas via Zoom with my kids. But one of the things we ended up doing was actually sharing our vision boards with each other. And it really became this really deep, meaningful conversation. And I'm actually not sure it would have been that meaningful had we been there in person. So I think it's one thing that in some regard has brought, I think, some different meaning to some of the conversations we have.
Well, you definitely have to change how you do things.
Absolutely.
So you came aboard Merchants, and part of your mission, part of your focus was to bring digital transformation to Merchants. Just talk to me about those early days, those first steps. What did you do? So you came in, you were the Chief Technology and Digital Officer. I bet a number of employees didn't even know what that title was. And you got up at a town hall and started talking about digital transformation. Walk me through, what did you do in those first steps?
Well, there were, I think, a couple of key things that were really foundational that I focused on early on. The first one was making sure that we had the right team in place. So there were some key leaders that we brought in externally. There were also some leaders within the company that I believe were just hidden jewels that we kind of brought to the forefront. And then it was getting kind of the right team underneath them put in place. I think the second thing that we did was we went on this journey of educating the company on really what it meant to digitally transform and the role that they all played. It really wasn't just the tech team driving these initiatives. It was really how collectively we were going to work together. So for me, it was about building relationships, driving collaboration, having good communication, and really setting in on this digital transformation journey together.
In those early days, did you get pushback? Transformation, some people, I think, run towards a transformation, and maybe some people run from a transformation. Talk to me about the cultural aspect of transforming a business.
Yeah, I would say I was met with quite a bit of resistance, and I think it had a lot to do with historically how the company operated, right? There was kind of this divide, I think, between the technology organization, which really at the time most people just viewed it as kind of information technology, which was kind of like back office functions, as opposed to, I was really trying to drive a different conversation around how technology could help enable them to do their jobs better, and for us to go to market and lead in market in a very different way. So it was really around education of what that really meant and how we were going to partner together. It required what I call a lot of endurance to really demonstrate through results that working together was going to be better than just throwing requirements or telling IT what to go do and hoping they'd come out with something that they actually thought was the right thing.
Yeah, I bet we can take that industry bell curve and probably apply it. You probably had 20% of the people cheering you on because they were excited. You probably had 20% of the people not rooting against you, but not sure if they were on board. And then you had the great middle, the 60% saying, well, show me the first couple quick hits, show me the first couple successes, and then you start bringing that 60% over. Would you say that was a little bit of your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from there, you get a couple of quick wins under your belt, you build some momentum, that starts to spread. And I think from there, right, we had some really good successes and a track record that was being laid that really helped us move forward.
Yeah, so I think one of the takeaways for our listeners is key is some of those quick wins, demonstrating to maybe the 30th percentile, the 40th percentile, hey, transformation is a good thing. Well, let's stay on some big picture topics, and let's talk about the importance of technology in both the fleet and the supply chain industries. Could you just give us a big picture?
Yeah, I would say that there's similarities, I think, in both. For me, I think it's the convergence of data and technology that have really transformed both of these industries. And technology is really helping to drive simplification, I believe, across processes in both industries, whether it be looking at, from a production point of view, how do we look at on-time production and monitoring? Of course, pre-COVID, a lot of that changed when COVID came about, right? Real-time notifications, I think, around supply chain, as well as, I think, overall effective management for the companies and the clients that we serve in terms of having access to information that really helps with driver behavior, driver safety, or just real-time information around total cost of ownership for their overall fleet.
I know in the fleet industry there's a number of large successful companies, and I know Merchants has moved from 8th to 4th, and from what I understand, one of the critical components has been the proprietary technology platform. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I believe its name is TotalView.
Yeah, TotalView is our proprietary go-to-market platform that we take a great deal of pride in and invested a significant amount of our technology dollars into our platform. It gives merchants and our employees access to information about their fleets. Information such as vehicle pricing, selector management, acquisition tools for ordering, or real-time driver behavior is available in our platform. We also have a customer service chat function. So if you're an account manager that has responsibility for a specific client, you're able to have real-time access and can use our chat function to communicate with them. You also have the ability in our platform to access standard as well as customizable dashboards to really help you look at overall things like total cost of ownership and effective ways to manage your fleet.
Excellent. So when I think of some of the technology that's coming into the fleet industry, one thing that's talked a lot about is driverless vehicles, autonomous vehicles. I know I get this question a lot, but how far away do you see us from autonomous vehicles?
That's a really great question, Brendan. Personally, I think there's been slow and steady progress around this particular set of technologies, but I do think we're really years away from this becoming a reality. Just my perspective. I think the transition to autonomous really could be lengthy for customers and individuals, just given the change that this actually represents. So while the technology may be readily available, I think we as individuals really have to be ready to embrace it and to understand what that really means. I do think there are a tremendous amount of benefits, but there's a lot of things to overcome. So I think of things like just privacy, right? The amount of access that companies will have available to them is, as an individual, am I ready to relinquish all of that information? What does that really mean? What can they do with that information, right? And then there's really the issue of how are we going to integrate autonomous vehicles with legacy vehicles in terms of our motorways? Like, there's just a lot to think through there. So I think while it's possible and the technology is there are so many things to figure out. Do I think we'll get there? Absolutely. Your guess is as good as mine as to how far away we are from that really being a reality at scale.
So let's flip a little bit and go away from fleet and auto and kind of your industry. And let's talk about leadership, because we are talking to you as a fearless leader. And with all the leadership experience you have, what advice would you give to somebody that's going into their first real leadership role? So they're becoming a team manager, a supervisor, team lead. What advice would you give to that individual?
There's so many things, right? I think as you first get into leadership, because I kind of remember back to my first leadership role, and you think you have to know it all and you have to have all the answers, and in reality, you don't. And you better get comfortable with knowing that you never will. I think even to this day, after having years and years of leadership experience, I don't have all the answers, but I think I'm confident enough now to say when I do and when I don't. But I think as a new leader, it's something that it just takes a lot of time to get that level of confidence. I think also know that you're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. And it's okay to admit when you make a mistake, right? I think it takes more courage, and you're a better leader when you can admit your mistakes than when not. And I think learn from your team, right? Your team will become just an immense source of knowledge for you. So learn from your team, put the best and brightest people around you and build those teams that way. And I would say the last thing that I would recommend is find yourself a really good mentor, somebody where you can confide in and help you kind of work through scenarios and maybe practice some things before you try them out on your team.
Yeah, I want to come back to mentoring, but I remember my first leadership role. I think what made it especially tough is I became a leader of the team I was on. So I went from being on the team to being the leader, and I had no experience. And I was one of the younger people on the team, and all of a sudden you're managing somebody 10 years older than you, 15 years older than you, and in a lot of ways they know more than you. You've been selected to be the leader, and it's really humbling. But I look back at that, and some people think being a CEO is a tough role. I'll tell you, I think the toughest leadership role I had in my career was my first leadership role, because I had the least amount of experience, and everybody on the team saw me in a different light. They saw me as a teammate and not necessarily the leader, and I had to change that. It's really challenging, but as you said, make mistakes, be authentic, and you'll get there. But let's come back to the mentor topic that you just touched on there. So you play a big part in the award-winning culture at Merchants, and we have an active mentoring program, but I believe you've been pretty active in mentoring yourself. So could you just talk to us a little bit about mentoring and what your thoughts are on that?
Absolutely. It is a topic that I have a great deal of passion around, as you know, and something that I think was instilled early on in my career, given that I had some really great mentors, and I was given an opportunity early on to formally participate in a mentoring program, and it had such a profound impact on me that from that point forward, I had made a commitment that I would always actively be involved in mentoring other individuals, primarily in technology, because it has given me the opportunity, I think, to learn from those that have mentored me, and it's a way to give back. It's one of those things where, unless you do it, it's one of the most gratifying things that you can do for another individual in terms of serving as a mentor to them and seeing the impact that it can have on their professional career.
So kind of putting you on the spot, 'cause you said that it's had a profound impact on you. Could you give us, would you be willing to give us an example or two of maybe where a mentor gave you some advice that changed what you did personally, professionally, anything in your life?
Oh, there's been a couple, but there's one that probably stands out to me, I think, the most, Brendan. And that was the mentorship that you provided to me. I can remember vividly us having a conversation around my interest in getting on a corporate board, right? And I had come to you asking for some advice around what's the best way to approach it. And I think I had mentioned to you at the time that I was investing in myself and I was taking a course at Harvard about women on corporate boards. And you gave me some really practical advice around other things to go explore. And I'll never forget, I walked away from that conversation, and about a week later you called me and you said, hey, would you be interested in exploring an opportunity to serve as a board member for Merchants? And I just remember so vividly the impact that had on me. It's like, wow, the power of the relationship that we had through mentoring. That one conversation kind of changed the whole trajectory of my career at that point, right? And the rest is kind of history. I went from exploring it to serving on the board to then joining the company, and it has had such an extreme impact on me personally and professionally. And I will forever be grateful to you for that.
Yeah, I know when I think of, and thank you for sharing that, when I think of my mentors, there's the direct impact they have on you by sometimes helping you do things you wouldn't normally do. In my case, oftentimes stopping me from stuff that I wanted to do that wouldn't have been that smart. But you underestimate the network that your mentors have, because they generally tend to be somebody with more experience than you, somebody who's a little bit further along in their career. And I know, just like you, some of the jobs I've actually had in my career have come through the networks of my mentors, where, you know, as I was transitioning from one company to another, having a mentor reach out and say, hey, I heard you're available in the market. So pretty interesting that we've had a similar experience. So it's the formal learning you get from a mentor, but it's also the extended network and the power of that network that you draw from as well.
Absolutely.
Before leaving this topic, though, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of throw another little bit of a putting you on the spot type of topic. You're a top 50 woman in technology. You're in the fleet and automotive industry, which tends to be more male. And you're at the top of the pyramid in technology, which is even more male. So have you seen that your mentoring goes beyond just mentoring in general, and it goes into being a role model for women in technology, women in a generally a male-dominated industry?
Absolutely, right? I think back to, I started my career in technology with GM as a client, right? And spent almost 20 years in that environment, which was by and large an extremely male-dominated environment, right? So for me, it was one of those things where I had to make the decision that I belonged in technology. I was good at what I was doing, and I needed to earn the respect from those that I engaged with, not only within the company that I worked for, but also for the clients that I was serving. So I made the decision very early on in my career, and most of the jobs that I've had since then have all been very male-dominated industries. And so mentoring for me also came out of kind of that experience that said, I want to be that role model for other women to follow. And so my commitment to mentoring kind of, I think, came very early on in my career as a result of those experiences that I went through.
Well, I know just here at Merchants, we've benefited from your leadership amongst our female population, and a couple of the people that you've mentored have actually grown and joined the leadership team. And I don't think, had you not come and been their mentor, I'm not sure they would have been as successful without having you as a role model. So there really is that trickle-down effect of having strong role models in a company and in society.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Let's flip over and talk a little bit about innovation. So, as you try to grow a company, growth companies tend to do things that tend to be a little bit more innovative than some of their peers. And, you've created a process where you train, incent, and empower employees across not only the technology department, but across all your departments to focus on innovation. And you've built that as a culture at your company. Why did you take that approach?
I think we made the decision to take that approach so that we could give everybody in the company an opportunity to innovate, right? I think historically, if I look back at whether it's clients I've served or the companies that I've worked at, there's always been an innovation department. And I think by and large, they start out strong, but they really quickly kind of fade because people view it as, well, that's the innovation department's responsibility, not mine. And I think here at Merchants, we took a different approach and we invested in partnering with Columbia University, where we learned some tools and methodologies and ways to change our thinking about how we approached innovation such that everybody had an opportunity to participate, whether it be something very, very small, and those were kind of like the little I's in innovation, as we called it, or kind of the bigger innovations that many of our employees across the company had an opportunity to participate in. So we invested in training, we invested in identifying innovation coaches that we embedded in each of the departments across the company. And I think it's proven to be extremely successful because everybody believes that they have an opportunity to innovate and make an impact on just the things that they do day in and day out or something really big in the company. And oftentimes it's both.
Great. So going back to kind of talking about companies and leadership and philosophy, when you look at any company, so not just where you are now, any company, what's most important? Culture, core values, vision, what's most important?
That's a really interesting question, Brendan. And I think for me, I think they're all equally important. Like if you said to me, pick one, I think I'd really struggle to answer your question. I kind of look at it like a three-legged stool, right? If you took one of the legs away, the stool's going to tip over because I think they're all really, really important. What I think is extremely important, though, is for everybody in the company to understand all three, right? And it needs to be such that it can easily be understood, that employees at large can really articulate it, and that they can see evidence of really the culture and the core values being lived on a daily basis. And I believe we've done a really effective job of doing that here at Merchants.
So you hit on a good theme there of people understanding them. So let's talk core values. So many times you're in the lobby of a company and they got their core values up on the wall, or you're walking, you're in a conference room and they've got a poster with their core values. As a leader, how do you take them from the poster in the lobby, and how do you really communicate them and get them across to your team?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, right? One, you've got to make sure that you communicate them and that they're visible. And I think we've done a really nice job of that, right? It's embedded in all of our business plans, and it's something that we review, across the company on a pretty regular basis, right? But I think more importantly is our employees seeing evidence of them being demonstrated on a day in and day out basis. So let's take as an example integrity, right? Do our employees and do our clients see evidence of us being and leading with integrity in all of our actions, right? Do they see evidence of that and never question it would be one thing. The way that we service our clients, right? Do we service them with urgency and with excellence? And are they seeing that demonstrated consistently? And I'd say the answer is yes, right? So I think those are two really good examples. Another one could be around community, right? I think we're very, very active in our community, whether it be here at headquarters or in our innovation center in Illinois, right? And so employees having an opportunity to participate in that, I think is another great example of us living out our core values.
Excellent. Well, I also know that part of your communication is you like to write. I remember reading an article that you wrote for Forbes a while back about data and safety, and what are some simple strategies to keep everyone on board and recognize the importance of cybersecurity?
Well, it's probably a topic that's really worth a lot of conversation in today's day and age, particularly as a result of COVID. But for me, it's all about really keep your message simple and try to make it fun, right? Because it's a topic that can just, I think, overwhelm individuals if not communicated in the right way. So I would say, one, make sure that you keep your message simple, keep it fun. And one of the things that we've done to keep it fun is, I'll give you an example, is we do campaigns. And on a quarterly basis, we do a phishing campaign. And if your particular function fails that phishing campaign, I give out what's called the quarterly phishing trophy. Now, it's not a trophy that we want to receive as a leader, but we do give them out, and it's a way to just have some fun and create awareness at the same time.
Now, I assume when you're talking phishing trophies, we're not talking bass and trout here.
No, we're not.
So is this the emails that we get that come from people telling us, hey, I've got gift cards available for you, and do this activity, do that activity,
Exactly.
asking for information?
Exactly.
Okay, so last question I've got for you. As one of our spotlighted fearless leaders, how do you continue to develop and grow so that your skills stay on the forefront of technology and digital transformation? What do you do?
So there's a couple of things. One, I'm a pretty active reader, and I enjoy reading not just on technology related topics, but also leadership topics at large. So I do quite a bit of reading. The second thing that I do is I invest in keeping my skills current. And so I've had the opportunity to focus on micro-credentials. So as an example, last year I took 3 courses and received micro-credentials on a number of different topics. So for me, I like to think of myself as having good intellectual curiosity and a lifelong learner. And I think I've been given a tremendous opportunity to continue to invest to keep my skills current, and it's something that I really enjoy doing.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time today, Jeanine. And to our listeners, we have had the good fortune of listening to Jeanine Charlton today. She serves as Senior Vice President and Chief Technology and Digital Officer at Merchants Fleet. She joined the company June of 2018, so just about 4 years ago, and started as a board member and then moved into an executive role. She provides strategic leadership to all Merchants Fleet technology initiatives to include the innovative and proprietary management software Merchants TotalView. She has an extensive Fortune 100 technology leadership background in the automotive, transportation, supply chain, and manufacturing industries. Now, she also spent her career at EDS, HPE Enterprise, and DXC Technology, some real technology powerhouses that she grew up in. She's an active member in her community, volunteering, serving on several boards as a technology advisor with the Boys and Girls Club, the Forbes Technology Council. And as I said at the top of this, what really is impressive is this past year she got named the top 50 most powerful women in technology. So Jeanine, thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Brendan, this was a lot of fun. It was really a pleasure for me today. Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up today's episode of Fearless Leadership. If you enjoy the show, and I hope you do, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get my new shows when they drop. Also, if you do have a minute, I'd love if you left us a review so more folks like yourself can discover the show. And remember, until next time, have the courage to fail and the faith to succeed.
This has been Fearless Leadership with Brendan Keegan. If you want to learn to live and lead fearlessly, go to brendanpkeegan.com. Fearless Leadership is a production of Forbes Books.